confession time. I don't know a whole lot about South Park. It has just never been that big of a thing in Denmark and hasn't run on television in the same way. I've seen the occasional episode that other people have recommended to me, and then I have watched it over the internet, like the World of Warcraft episode, which I thought was hilarious. But for me to go back and watch every single episode of South Park ever made, that's just not going to happen. I'm sorry, guys. I do think it's funny, and I do like it, but I only know the bare essentials of it. However, what I do know a lot about is live action role playing. I've been a live action role player, a LARPer since I was 13 years old. And being such in Denmark has been a treat since we among the LARP communities across Europe has been acknowledged for having some of the best LARP games in Europe. And as Europe LARPing is considered way better than what happens in the US, it means that Denmark must have some of the best LARPing games in the world. It is LARPing entirely different from what you would get outside of Europe. So imagine my surprise when this game turned out to being a parody of not only RPG gaming, but also LARPing. And what did I think about that? Fucking genius! In this game, you don't play as one of the established South Park characters, but a literate blank slate character simply called the New Kid, or Douchebag as Cartman has named him. This, like so much else in this game, becomes its own parody as our main character, like all blank slates before him, doesn't say a word. Except this time, the world actually reacts to it and point out how weird it is.
We want you to have lots of fun here. Why don't you go out and make some friends?
Right, get outside and play, son. Like normal kids.
We've got some money for you on the kitchen counter, sweetie. Just be back before it gets dark.
Yeah, we love you too.
Which brings up how there's a weird yet perfect mixture of self-awareness and just shit insane comedy going on here. In spite of me not knowing much about South Park, this feels like a good entrance point. In spite of the batshit crazy nature of the game and this world, I was never in doubt about what was going on. And that is in spite of fighting Khloe Kardashian's mutated monster features is one of the lesser weird things I had to do in this game. So, by the beginning of the game, you are simply playing as this voiceless character, the New Kid who just had moved to town. It doesn't take long for him to be hijacked by Cartman into playing the current ongoing LARP game, and they all nicknamed the new character Sir Douchebag. So that's it for the rest of the game. The New Kid and Sir Douchebag. The game operates on a classical turn-based fighting system, where you enter fights whenever you walk in on an enemy. Very similar to all classical RPG games, and yet the parody aspect remains in place. And this is half of the plot. A LARPing game that kids in South Park is playing where the humans and the elves are fighting for the stick of truth. A stick that controls the universe. The person who holds the stick controls the universe and thus they get to decide in their game, basically. It's just how it goes with the game. Alongside that plot though, a shit ton of things are happening because it wouldn't be South Park if it didn't. You get abducted by aliens, strung down by underwear stealing gnomes, the city gets infested by green goo that turns people into zombie Nazis, and it just goes on and on and on. All the while the kid characters never break away from the game they are playing, and it's hilarious. I would imagine I would have gotten even more out of this game if I were a true South Park fan. I bet there's all kinds of Easter eggs hidden in this game for fans. There is a great attention to detail and stuff you can check out. But even for a person like me, who only knows the bare essentials about South Park, it was actually a surprisingly good entrance point. It made me want to see more South Park and get more into it. And as an RPG and LARPing fan, there was a lot for me to enjoy in it. I do especially like how Cartman and the others never ever quit the game. I guess you'll have to be a LARPer to know this, but if you stop being in character in a game, it is called going off game, and some people get pissed when you do that. No, I mean seriously, there are nut jobs out there taking all of this very seriously. But as I like to say, if you are LARPing, no matter what you do or say, You are still essentially playing dress up and pretend. You need to have at least some sense of self irony when doing it. And so do you if you are going to play this game. It lives high on the same kind of humor as South Park always does. Essentially, if you love South Park, this should be a treat. It really is the best you could hope for in a South Park game. And how lucky is that, when most television tie-in game tends to be such cheap cash grabs? This is definitely not. Effort and thought were really put into it, and I really do think the creators of the show must have been in over this game quite a lot. However, if you highly dislike South Park and what it stands for, you won't like this game either. It is a game aimed at South Park fanbase and nothing else. It's gross, offensive, balls to the walls, and that's what makes it hilarious, because when it hits the right notes, you'll just have to sit back and laugh hysterically. This game is available on Steam, the Xbox, and on the PlayStation 3, and soon there'll be a South Park Stick of Truth 2 game coming out, which I am personally very, very much looking forward to. I personally can't wait to play it, because this was hilarious, and I love things that are hilarious.